So today I will be talking about viable alternative to JIRA. Well, actually, I will be talking about GitHub. The title is click, it's total clickbait because basically the presentation, like Roman asked me to do this presentation, I didn't want it, but he forced me to. And because I was afraid it would be very boring, which I think it will be. And so at least the title is somehow interesting, so that's the story. I also noticed that all the presentation now starts with questions, so I follow this big trend. So I would like to ask you, like, why are we actually using either Jira or GitHub? What for? And now, in terms of GitHub, I'm not talking about the repository, but like, if you, for example, use the GitHub project, which I will show you, some of you are already using it, like why we are actually using it. Please shout at me, I will repeat it. Why we are using it, like, we don't have to, right? So why? Transparent management. What it means, transparent management?
That it's clear what everyone is working on.
So sort of
transparent,
synchronization,
visible.
organization of work between the team members. Cool. Anything else?
Tracking the progress.
Thanks, Katja. Progress tracking, great. All right, like, it seems that it's not big trend, so I will not use it anymore. So yeah, basically, I guess to me, identify like this sort of to-do list for people in the team. It helps organizing the work, synchronizing like what needs to be done. It should be somehow clear from that that we are working on this. Again, that's probably for organization reason that I know Kachka is working on this piece, so I will not touch it right now, or I need to talk with her and discuss it, right? So yeah, so okay, cool. I have actually a feeling that, especially lately, all the tools are in the cloud. Like 10 years ago, actually, lots of those stuff were done basically on the whiteboard or something with sticky notes. Now everything is in the cloud. And I feel a little bit that sometimes we are overusing the tools and that we, for example, have like, we have in Czech Republic this suchý únor, so like that you are not drinking alcohol for 1 month. Maybe we should actually try to have like 1 month without other tools to really see if we need them, what for we really need them, and maybe we can survive with them, and it will help us to understand like what are their benefits. Definitely there are lots of benefits, but I think sometimes it's not really clear what are those benefits. I just wanted to remind basically the Agile Manifesto. Actually, there is some updated version or something, and basically say, it's about making people awesome. It's about delivery value to the customers, to the users. It's about experimenting and learning rapidly and create sort of safe environment for the team members to work on some project. And I did update. I say like people over tools. Like people in the team are more important than the tools that you are using on the project. So I identify like few principles of product development, and I think I'm basically telling you those simply to understand some things I will show you later. GitHub or Jira is just a tool. And our goal is like to create successful digital products. And so the product itself that we are creating is definitely more important than the tools. So for example, there's, I think, sometimes this notion that we are working on a ticket or that we need to move the tickets from one column to another. Well, all those sentences, like, it's really, really wrong to me because like we are working on the product and sure, like we are using tickets, but it's just a tool how to make the product successful. Definitely, like tools are for the developers or for the team members. It's not it shouldn't be some bureaucratic requirement. Like it should serve us, not that we should serve that tool, right? Definitely, tools shouldn't replace the communication. Like the communication is key. Like developers should talk to UX designers how they should do the feature. Then developers should talk to QAs how to test it, what is tested, how to make sure that later on we will not accidentally break it and stuff like that. We should over communicate things on stuff. And I sometimes again feel that tools are actually preventing from such communication because everything is in JIRA or GitHub, doesn't matter. And then we are not communicating. And I think that's wrong, and then we cannot do really successful products. By the way, you notice that I don't have slides. I use this. I thought it will be a great idea. I'm not sure, frankly. Anyway, so we are now on this slide. Uh, so why we should use GitHub or Jira again? I think it's about capturing all the problems of our clients, like business problems, or their customers or users, and then we should basically prioritize which one are important. So it's basically a to-do list for us of problems that we need to solve. Tickets for me is just basically is helping to capturing the discussion about those problems and possible solutions, some research information and stuff like that. So we don't need to remember it and always reinvent the wheel because we forget. Also, I think that the tools should help us focus on the work. I feel, for example, like Slack is very often very distracting, that basically other people demanding answers from me right now, which prevent me from basically focusing for what I need to do right now because I have some technical challenging issue. And for that you really need to have time to really dive in, be in the zone, and work on it. And sometimes, so I think that basically the tools should help us with that, to have dedicated time for solving the problems, and then time where I'm focusing on communicating with others about other issues on the project. I don't think that the tools should be like a reporting tool, because again, I think it leads to that we are not communicating about things. I don't think that complex stuff like project and how team works can be sort of transformed in single digit. That feels wrong to me. Second of all, definitely should make tool for like managers to micromanage team members. It should be collaborative tool between peers on the project. So that's the introduction. um, so we are here now. Our misuse of Jira. So first of all, there is like actually Jira, like history of Jira is not. It wasn't really a tool for developers or like specialized tool for developers. This was more for big companies that, for example, have some help desk and support desk, and they bring lots of tickets that need to be somehow solved. So that's why there are all those workflows complicated. And for those organizations, it meant completely sense because you need to deal with each of the ticket in proper way, and for each ticket there could be different workflow how to handle it. So like I'm not saying that Jira is bad. I'm just saying like maybe sometimes we don't use it on like proper projects. Like I don't remember that we would have here projects that we would deal with tickets from supports desk and help desk, or we would have like basically huge wave of tickets that we need to somehow, in sort of bureaucratic way, somehow handle. So that's one thing I think where we sort of misuse Jira. I think it's designed for a huge corporation. Actually, I feel that, or I think that it's actually meant for organizations that are working on like one product or related products. So basically, the projects are actually very interconnected. In our case, we have separated projects. So again, I don't think it's a proper use case. Again, because Jira has basically, you can do anything in Jira, probably even build a car or something. It tends people that they try to use all the features there, and that leads to basically over or pre-optimization of our processes, which is same mistake as if you over-engineer your solution in the beginning. So that's why I don't like Jira. By the way, like Denny has this great brown bag about biases. I'm totally biased against JIRA, so basically don't listen to me. So anyway, myths about JIRA, myths. Okay, so we didn't use actually JIRA forever. I think we are using like 3-4 years. For a long time, even longer time, we use Pivotal Tracker. So it's not like that, we need to use it because we use it forever. No. Everybody is using it? Definitely no. Basically, big companies like Spotify, Microsoft, and many, many others, basically each team can decide what tool they will use. And many of them are choosing dedicated tools, like let's say now it's popular, for example, the product board, somebody use Trello, and there are many, many others emerging tools for product teams. So again, JIRA was originally a ticketing system, and those startups are noticing that and trying to really create proper solution. I actually remember the discussion why we moved to JIRA. One of those points was that, okay, in JIRA we can do much better planning and roadmaps on project in JIRA than in the Pivotal Tracker. Yeah, right. That didn't happen. Frankly, for obvious reason, like if the reality is that clients changing their decision all the time, there is no clear roadmap like in the real world how the tool can help you. Basically, if it's not there, no tool, not GitHub, not JIRA, not anything else will help you with that. And frankly, the nature of our projects is they are small, so it's way harder to do such things as like long-term planning and roadmaps for, I don't know, 2 years or something. Even a few months, right? So anyway, clients want JIRA? No. Well, maybe sometimes, but actually sometimes they complain about it as well, so it's not like that they are forcing us there. Basically, lots of time sometimes, again, I'm biased, so sometimes we tell, okay, we are using JIRA, and then in the end of the project say, well, the JIRA wasn't that great tool. So, but on the other hand, many clients actually require JIRA, so, So basically, this is the whole point of this presentation. So then we can, I guess, finish. So why I think GitHub is actually a better choice for us is we already use GitHub for our repository. So actually it would be cool that we could be in just one environment and don't need to switch between other tools. I think it's way better. From my experience, because I use GitHub on my project, it's super great that I am just in one tool. I have one sort of notification list, and I can see everything what's going on there, and I don't need to go to JIRA and try to find out what happened there. So I think it's super convenient. Also, like there's a single source of truth, like because sometimes the discussion happen in JIRA, sometimes on the pull request, sometimes in Slack, and it's actually convenient to have everything on one place. With that, it's actually related to the last point that when we hand over the project to client, if we have the code there, the project plan, the documentation, the releases and the discussions, everything is there. We just give them access to the repository, and that's it. In other case, if the document for all those things we use different tools, we somehow need to handle the handover to them. And frankly, for example, like backupping JIRA and exporting somewhere else, it's painful. I did it like a few weeks ago. I don't want to do it again. But again, I'm biased against JIRA. I feel that it's faster and simpler tool. And actually, I think it's more flexible to some degree. I think for end users, I mean, JIRA, you can set it up everything like from manager perspective, but for the end users, I feel that it's more flexible tool. I heard before that but GitHub doesn't have some special feature that we have in JIRA. I heard like exactly milestones, planning roadmaps, dealing with like small versus big stories or like epics. I will try to show you how we do it. I'm not saying that's perfect. Just to be clear, I don't think that GitHub is perfect. I think it has lots of and lots of issues. But again, if I'm comparing JIRA and GitHub, to me, the GitHub is winner. That's all. But it has lots of and lots of issues. I don't know, is there anything you use in JIRA, some feature, special feature that you like? I would be actually interested, and I could adjust my presentation to try to cover that. No? Okay. Anyway, by the way, if you have any question to the topic or like to the particular thing that I'm talking about, please raise your hand so we can deal with it immediately. So one problem or one thing I like about the GitHub is that's how actually the tickets are sort of handled, because I feel that again, I was saying that JIRA was ticketing system, and basically how it works that on help desk you receive some call, you put there all the details, and then somebody need to deal with it, and it was basically okay. There's clear task what to do. But like product development is, it's not that easier, because usually you see some problem, you notice some problem, and then you need to actually dig into it and investigate the problem. Okay, so you define a problem, and then you need to, there are many solutions for that problem. So again, you need to do some research on the UX front, then on the technical side. Then you need to, again, test it, prepare some strategy how to make sure that we will not break it in the future. Then deliver it, and during all those steps, some work can happen, like the scope can creep. You can also you should also be deciding, okay, what we will basically deliver in the first version, what in the next version, because otherwise you can work on some small feature forever, right? And actually, in the end, because we want to do successful product, it's about that validating that what we did, that we really solved the problem in the real world. So it's not that straightforward, and actually, this is the chart. Maybe some of you remember from Basecamp that basically they say when you start working on the problem, like the first half of the project is actually, or the mini project is about like trying to figure out what needs to be solved, and the second half is about like actually doing the work. So that naturally leads to a problem that you start with some, let's say, small ticket, and then it starts growing. Yeah, that's what I said. So I will give you examples, for example, how we dealing with this sort of organic growth of a scope of some problem and few strategies. So one thing is that basically, or one principle I think is very good, is that basically anybody in the team should be able and should be motivated to create tickets for problem when they encounter it. Definitely the tool is not just for PMs to create new stories or for QAs to report bugs. Basically, whenever you see some issue that maybe is worth to solve, like it should be there and it should be captured, and when you have some planning or you communicate with the team, you should decide, okay, is it worth to solving now or should we wait or do something with it? But like definitely it's good to basically, when the whole team is trying to spot problems, and because then it leads to the fact that the product would be successful. Otherwise, if you just doing tickets that somebody told you, then you are basically depending on some magical person that knows everything and will somehow magically make that the product will be successful. But that's not the case usually. Usually it should be work of the whole team. So anyway, back to this thing. So how we deal with it, and basically now we are going to the phase of the brown bag, which will be kind of boring, that because I will be showing two different basically tips how we are doing that. So one way how we are doing is how you can deal with basically sort of expanding scope is that you can create tickets with the checkboxes. That's actually quite sorry. That's quite convenient, because in the project board, I hope that everyone already saw this. You can see basically that, for example, if you have some ticket that you can see, okay, maybe 1 or 2 are already done, in this case 0, but you can see that there are some sub-tickets in that particular ticket. Second thing is that you actually create dedicated board. We are heavily using it on AdCode, for example, when we have some bigger feature, we basically create a new project board. And basically what you can do that, for example, if you have some main board, you just basically mention that particular board on the main board, and you can see basically progress there. So that's basically this representation. Frankly, on GitHub, things are very flexible. At first, it could sound or look weird, but I get used to it, and I actually start liking it. So again, maybe for some it will not be that great, but please ask the people who are using GitHub if they used to it, and I think most of them will say yes, that it's actually convenient. Anyway, third strategy is, I think, for a little bit different use case. Again, sometimes we use it on Atco. Is that basically sometimes you start implementing something, you have some initial version, and then you find out that, okay, there are some edge cases that you need to cover, and maybe the UI person need to do something. So basically, you do the checkboxes part of the pull request, and again, if you are then on the pull request page, you can see that basically it displaying the checkboxes here. So again, you can see there's maybe some ongoing work in progress PR, and then basically you can see 10 subtasks are done from 15 or something like that, for example. So that's another strategy. I find that actually very useful because I think I actually experience on many projects that sometimes we have problem that some PRs are open for a long time, which could be fine, but there is no visibility what is happening there, and actually this is, I think, a nice strategy how to make it visible to other team members. Like for example, I don't know, if QA needs to fix the test or do something special there, you can put there a checkbox for QA, assign the ticket to them, and so on, for example. You can also basically group the tickets, because in GitHub there is this notion of either issues or simple nodes. Basically, it starts that you always create a node, and then from that a ticket. So in this case, everything here is nodes in this presentation. And what you can do, you can basically create node and mention several tickets there that could be sort of subtasks. And then again, it will basically look like that basically there will be references to those particular issues. So that's another way how to sort of create an epic. And last, I guess, strategy could be that you create some label that represents an epic, and that's it. I can show you later. So let's move on. Again, if you have any particular questions or comments, do it immediately, nothing. How to deal with multiple repos? So that's actually, again, few people mentioned that, for example, Ordamo has, I don't know, 7, 9 now repositories. So it could be problematic because the projects are usually tied to particular repository. So how to deal with that? So one strategy could be that you use basically single project board on the main repo, and you have there tickets that somehow are related to other repositories, and there is one thing that is related. I will be talking about that basically there are some magic keywords for developers that if they mention it in commit messages or in PR descriptions, when, for example, the PR is merged and it mentions some ticket, it will automatically basically mark the ticket as done. And actually you can do that, for example, that the PR is closing multiple tickets, and also it could actually close tickets from other repo. If you are in that repo, it's just the number. If you need to close something from different repo, you basically say the slug of that repository and the number, and it will work. So this is one strategy how to deal with this problem. Oh, cool, great, thank you.
So this thing with closing the tickets, I assume it's probably similar to how it is in Trello or JIRA. You probably have like you can make custom columns, I guess, right?
Yes.
How do you specify which column is the done or closed column?
Perfect. perfect question. Like, you have here like the manage automation. You open it, and basically, first you here say, okay, is to do in progress done or none of those? And also like that you can automatically put there the tickets. So for example, in this case, the done, if I put there manage automation, basically it automatically move issues here when they are closed. So basically, for example, once, for example, I don't know, here Pavel will close the PR. For example, this will close this PR. It will automatically will be moved to this done column.
Okay, cool. I also have another question,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
No.
Okay. So you said you can make cards and link them to PRs and stuff like that. Are cards different from issues in GitHub, or are they the same thing?
Yeah, okay. So basically, if you want to create something new, it starts with this node. So like test node. And okay, get out. And basically, then you can convert it to issue. And basically, if I just put there, for example, this repository, it will, I think, create something. Basically, the project. Because there is no progress, you don't see progress, but you see that it's project. So that way, basically, if you link issue, pull request, or a project, it will create this like reference widget, or how it's called.
I see that you have 72 tickets and done. So how are you planning each week or every other week?
We are talking to each other. I mean, like, so for example, that's a very good question. For example, this week, so again, like for me, it's more important to talk to the people than the tools. For example, we were working on basically now on this website thing that Guillaume showed us. And basically we create, actually Pavel created this board, and we start putting the tickets there, and basically we say, okay, what is must have, and we deliver that. And yeah, so, you know, for some it could be, again, a little bit confusing, and if you only rely on tools, then I admit that maybe it sounds disorganized to some degree, but on the other hand, like, actually it's a little bit a purpose that you should really be communicating, and you should not rely only on tools. But otherwise, basically how we do it is that we have this main board, and that's the thing. So we say, okay, what is in progress, what we are working on, is there still something urgent on website main? So we will go there, discuss the tickets there. Again, see, I'm falling to this trap of seeing we are doing tickets. We are not doing tickets. We are improving the website so we have new customers, right? It's not about tickets. Anyway, so, and then we have those problems. So we said, okay, we want to fix those bugs that Liam found, and that's basically it.
I have a question, if I might.
Mm-hmm.
Can you create actually some template for the tickets or cards, you know, so you can just have
Yes.
the pre-described.
Actually, I have slide for that. Well, it's not slide, but I will get to it if you don't mind.
And one more.
Okay, cool.
Can you can you add a video there, like a you know, MP3 or MP4?
Yes, basically, basically, you can put it here to the description that you just drag things there. I'm not sure, frankly. Maybe it will not work. Probably there will be just link, but I'm not sure. Sorry, what? Only so you can put there photos, but the videos will be only linked somewhere else, basically. So yeah, that's one of the things that it's not super great, for example. So it's not perfect. Yes, we can use JIRA. But actually, it's a good idea. We can use JIRA for videos and link them to GitHub. Yeah, that would be a nice system. Anyway, anything else? Okay, back to my great slides, which are not slides. Uh, so basically, the second strategy that you have one main board, and then you mention the other boards. That's what we do usually on Atco. And there is one thing on GitHub which I think they will improve in future months. Basically, they sort of create this notion of teams. We are using mainly for like managing like privileges and stuff like that. Sorry, permissions, no privileges. And basically, you can have like organization-wide project for example, Ordamo, and then it would be basically above the one repo. It would be above the whole repos, and you can use that way. And then you can basically link that organizational repo of Salsita software for Ordamo. It's technicality, but basically it's maybe for project manager that this could be done. So this is one example. Again, let's do. We'll close this. Another topic, issue templates. See, you can do issue templates. I will show you example which we have on Atco. So basically, you create new issue, and we have just one. But if you want, for example, have special template just for bug, you can have it. Because we don't want to over-optimize processes, we don't have that. But once we have this need, we would do it. And basically, this is our template. So we basically try to force people, when you encounter some problem, define it. Maybe write some solution that came in your mind. Also discuss, usually there are lots of open questions or raised which we should discuss. Also, you can say what is really nice to have, so we don't so the scope is not too broad. And also we try basically limit ourselves by saying, okay, we will only dedicate to that feature just 1 week. Usually, frankly, lots of those we just remove, and we will leave there the problem and solution. But we have the template. How you can create template? Basically, some of those projects, if you notice, there is this folder .github. There are other things I will show you later, and then this other folder issue template. And basically, you can create whatever file. It's MD file. So you can create, bug requests or whatever, and it has this format that basically here you have some options that, for example, the bug can have default label a bug. You can have default assignees, and then you can basically create the template. That's really it. So back here, no here. Oh, great. I was lost in my slides.
So is it possible to put comments directly on cards, or do you have to put comments, say, in the issues or on the PRs or something like that?
By cards, you mean those notes, right? I guess.
Like the cards that are here in the project board?
No, you can't.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Yeah. You can? Yeah, how? But if it's just
I understood the question correctly. If you open the board, on the right side there is the panel when you can just put in the comment. You get low resolution now, but if you go to the rightmost part of the screen and you highlight one of the tickets, with the heading, you need to press the heading of the ticket.
I think I've selected. I really don't think that it's.
Okay, open Atco main and. Oh, those are all notes. Okay, sorry. You can modify the note, but if there is issue with the link in the heading, there you can add comments directly.
Yeah, basically, yeah, there is no dedicated thread to the node, only to issues or PRs.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so I'm again lost. Uh, there is like, for example, there is a kind of annoying thing that if you are, for example, on the board and you want to create a ticket, you usually use this like node. But for example, if you have those templates, then it will not use those templates. So we did sort of a solution that we create a node with the URL to creating that issue directly. So that was our sort of hack. But again, it's one of the things that, you know, it's not really great in GitHub. But there are some, you know, hacks for that. By the way, if you're using this label strategy that you are labeling the tickets, one thing, like try to use just few colors. And for example, it's good that if the label is sort of saying that it is some kind of feature, use, you know, same color for feature labels, use same color for, you know, dev stuff and stuff like that, so it doesn't look like circus. I think it's a small thing, but it annoys me. Planning on road mapping. So GitHub has this notion of milestones. We don't use it on Atco, so I created just to demonstrate that. So you can create basically milestones. They have description. You can say the due date, and you can assign basically the issues to that. I have one example because I tried to use it, but then it was for nothing, so we stopped using it. But anyway, so you get the list of the things that needs to be done for that milestone, and if you are on that, if you are in the issue detail, you can, for example, you know, assign the ticket to the milestone, as you would expect, and then if you are on that board, then there is this label saying, okay, it's meant for this release. So if you want to use this release planning, you can use that. Okay, back to some projects are using, like, if you, this is I think for like release planning. If you want to have more like general roadmap, lots of like those open source projects are using basically some project that says basically like this doing roadmap basically. Basically something like I did with the presentation, that using those nodes and say what will happen probably when. I don't know, like it's not super specialized or anything, but you know, I always laughing when somebody's trying to create like super specific roadmap for 2 years, and after 1 month it's all you know, not true. So I think like those generates a way better idea. I think basically product development should be about that you have good prioritization of what needs to be done immediately next, let's say, few weeks, and then strong vision, but the vision is abstract. Usually if you try to be very specific in the long term, it's going to fail. I don't like failures. Backlog, there is not a notion of backlog, so again, we are using dedicated board for that. So whenever we have some garbage that we don't want to have in the main board, we put it to backlog. And I put it to columns so it looks like more organized, but usually we don't touch that. So, so it's not really backlog, it's garbage, I would say. A release note. So GitHub has these releases. I guess usually on project when we do releases, we tag it in the Git, which I don't know what I want to say, but anyway, basically to that, for example, there is those GitHub actions that for us are generating like changelogs based on basically titles from pull requests, and it's quite nice. You know, for example, if you need to write stand-up for Monday stand-up, we just check what we did basically last week, and we can say it. Also, it's useful when we have client talk, client call. You can again say, okay, what we did, and show the new stuff there. So GitHub action, I think I already show it on the lightning talk, so I don't want to go into the details. So that's basically tips for let's say, product management part, here are some tips for developers that could be hopefully useful. So, as I already mentioned, there are some special words that you use either in commit messages or PR description that basically helps you closing tickets, and it's in the use for the automation, basically. For example, till yesterday, I didn't know that I can do those kind of things, so maybe some of you didn't know as well, so you can use it. We have issue templates, and the same way we have PR templates. I think it's actually a very useful thing. A few examples how we have it on Genatco. So basically, our issue template is that you shouldn't forget to basically mention the ticket that is related to this PR. Describe it for other team members what I did in that PR, and also what I tested by myself for QA, so they don't need to go to some trivial things and they can focus on more important things. That's one example. Second example is that basically we don't use it anymore because frankly now it's there only Guillaume and Pavel, so it doesn't make sense that much, but like back then for a few weeks we were using that also, that if it was bigger PR, we have basically template for like that to-do list for devs and to-do list for UIs. If I again show you how this can be done, basically again it's about this magic folder.github. In this case, there is this special file, pull request template MD, and basically you create that and that's it. What we are putting there is some things that we shouldn't try to forget. So it's kind of useful actually. So that's so. For example, if you are forgetting about some stuff before merging PR, I think this is the solution for that. Any question? No. I don't know. Maybe probably. I hope that for most of you, this is you know about it. But GitHub has, for example, some option about how you can basically do the merging of PRs. So I know that, for example, in the default, the GitHub has this settings unchecked. So to have more clean repository, it's actually useful when you merge the PR to delete the branch and stuff like that. So it's maybe for you more to know like what are the automatic possibilities of GitHub. Let me do some cleaning up here. By the way, I will post this project for others. I did it in a way so it's more like that if you are interested in one particular topic, you can find it there. There is always example and always a documentation from GitHub, so you know how to do it on your project. There's one new feature, is automatic assigning of PRs. Probably it's again for bigger teams. Basically, as I said, there is this notion of teams, and you can enable auto-assignment. So if, for example, I think they try to solve the issue that, for example, one team member is overloaded with PRs. And you can have those options that you can have some rules, and basically the GitHub will create the assignments automatically for you. I guess the options are pretty much clear. So I don't need to go to details. I think this is just for you to know that if you have such problem and if you feel that some automatic assigning could be helpful to you, GitHub allows that. Another thing is sometimes some PRs are hanging there forever because somebody forget about it or something. So again, there is new feature, reminder, that you can schedule reminders that will basically put message into the Slack, and you can say, okay, to which channel, so your project channel. You can say, for example, every day or once in a week, private selected repository, some rules like what needs to be reminded. And again, if you have, I know that for example, at Atco we have problem that sometimes we assign the PR to QA, and because they are working on multiple projects, it's very easy to forget. And this way, we can set up that once in a, I don't know, once a day or once a week, we will remind that there are some open pull requests that are waiting for that person. So again, if you have some problems with that, there is some solution in GitHub. And as you can see, like lots of those tips are actually, if you are using JIRA, they are applicable as well. So if you have a bigger team, maybe it's interesting for you to have some protection about the main branch. So again, this is information for you. If somebody is doing some nasty things there, you can protect it by rules. So again, if you are more interested, check the documentation. I'm not sure if you are just a normal member. I think you need to be administrator. So if you want to introduce such rules, ask your PM. There's nice things that's actually for usually JIRA users. You can set up that, for example, if you mention in PRs, for example, some ticket outside of GitHub, that it will create links, so you don't need to sort of manually go there. So basically, for example, let's say, I don't know, JIRA prefix, so it could be ND or something else, and then you create the proper URL. It will automatically link. You will have automatically link to your JIRA. So I guess that could be useful for some. I'm not sure if you guys know about this feature. GitHub Actions, we already talked about that. We, for example, use it for the generating of those release notes, but it can be used for many, many other things. I recommend you to check the marketplace. There are lots of prepared actions that you can use. There are a few new stuff on GitHub that might be interesting. I don't know, like, so there is new Android and iOS application. It's still in beta, so you need to request invitation, but I think they give it to everyone. And if for some reason you want to do your PR reviews on mobile, you can. And there is this GitHub command line tool. And basically, you can not even go to GitHub at all, and you can handle everything from your command line. So again, if you are lovers of command line, I guess you can try this one. Okay, conclusion. So first of all, like actually, wow, that's interesting. We use GitHub already on many projects. So again, I'm biased towards GitHub, so you can ask people who work on, for example, those projects, what they feel about GitHub, what kind of problem and issues they have, and how they feel about them. There is one topic for future, but I kind of like it. As you might notice, I'm not really a fan of Slack because I feel that it's distracting us from doing the actual work. And I generally feel that we should try to move our discussion from sort of real-time online chat to more like, let's say, email-based communication, asynchronous, where basically I will reply to you when I want, because now I'm working on something important, I want to finish it, and then I will reply to you. So I think, as I said in the beginning, tools should help you basically to organize in your time as a developer and generally as a team to make you productive. And I have some doubts about Slack. I'm not saying that everything about Slack is bad, but like I don't think that everything should be handled by chat conversation, basically. And so there is this notion in GitHub, they have basically, as I said, the teams, and teams have some discussion. So, here's example that you can use that. to me, it would make at least partially sense because again, we would have the discussion either in the tickets or in the PRs or basically somehow related in the GitHub, so you can hand over to the client everything later, so and everything is one place. To me, it's also like interesting because frankly, when I work on those projects and all of them was on GitHub, I really use this notification because I can quickly check what's happening. So even like the conversation, okay, somebody start conversation on this. I see that somebody closed this. Maybe somebody needs my attention here because we have some discussion about how to actually do this feature because there were some problems. And basically, I have everything on one place, and to me, it's super convenient. When I do my work and I have some time between some items I want to do, I check this, I see what is new, and it's perfect to me. And if I don't need to check Slack, JIRA, and maybe other tools, it would be great if I have just one place. So about this for future discussion, but GitHub allows that. So some takeaways, let's say. So should we switch from JIRA to GitHub? Up to you. I try to show you that it's possible, but as I said, I think each team should decide what is the best tools and the settings of those tools, so it makes them productive and it helps them to really build successful products. Is GitHub without issues? Hell no. Like there are plenty of issues. You guys definitely noticed some of them during my presentation. There are many, many more. It's not ideal for sure. Any recommendation? I feel that GitHub should be, on the other hand, like our primary or default tool. I don't think like JIRA should be our default tool because it's not simply suited for our types of project usually. I'm not saying that for some maybe it makes sense, but like we have frankly we have small projects or smaller projects most of the time, and also like to have everything in one place in one environment. I feel that it makes me, at least me, more focused and less distracted. Yeah. So do you have any questions or maybe those who are actually using? Maybe I forget some additional tips. Frankly, I didn't discuss the documentation. There is wiki, but it's already too long. So.
Surprise.
Thank you.
So the team that I'm working on is really obsessed with putting story points on tickets and issues and tracking our story points per sprint and blah, blah, blah. Is there an ability to do that?
I hope
Nice.
not. Like, I mean, like, it's actually like a couple of words about that. Like, I still don't understand what story points mean. Like, if we say that, where is it? That basically.
Oh, we don't have to get philosophical about
No, I
story
mean,
points here. I'm wondering if it's possible.
Okay. Yeah. No. Never. Like, what for?
Yeah, but then I'd have to convince them as well.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
understand
curious.
that. I understand that. Like, sure, you can put it to description using some template, but some kind of counting and so on. On the other, maybe what could help you to satisfy them, you have here some like insights, and somewhere there I think is that basically how many issues you were able to close within a week. So basically, if you use this strategy that basically each ticket is sort of 1 point, there is sort of support for that.
So at the beginning, you said that people in teams should talk to each other more and communicate each other more.
Absolutely.
And then you spent like 45 minutes showing us how to set this tool up. So I'm quite confused. Like, can you give us any examples? Like, what do you think people currently do using those tools that they should rather communicate about?
It's hard to me to really answer properly because I'm basically now on one project really, so and now we are in one room. But I feel like discussing, for example, with people with UI team that sometimes it's really about okay, you have some assigned tickets and you need to do them, and when there was the question about planning. The planning is not about like what exactly tickets we will deliver, but basically the conversation should always be like, what is the biggest value we can bring to the client this week? And, of course, the tickets can help with that, sort of to capture those conversation. But, I was maybe be provocative, so you have something to think about. But I definitely feel that sometimes it's like that we pull, maybe some QA folks can talk about how we just take a bunch of tickets, put them in testing, and then they somehow magically disappear, right? So that I guess would be example of that. We should even talk about each ticket with the QAs and basically discuss with them like what was it about and what makes sense to test there and stuff like that. With UIs, it should be also like when we start developing something, it's okay, what are our options? What is the sort of less time consuming and stuff like that. So I think building successful products is about lots of communication and way less like developing than I think usually is done basically.
Okay.
Sorry for not specific answer. I know that it's very abstract answer.
Yeah, for example, the example you just said about moving tickets to in testing and then they magically disappearing. I mean, if the tickets contain everything that the tester needs to know, then they can work in exactly the way you described with writing emails and replying whenever you want. And as opposed to, if I were to talk to them as I move the tickets to in testing, I would annoy them as much as you described Slack messages. So I think it's better. Oh well.
Well, you can have some meetup about this. So it's not like that every time QA will work on that ticket that will go and bother that person, but it's more like, hey, Jindřich, come to me and we will go through those 15 tickets when you have time, right? So I think there's a way how to do it more like reasonably. You said that if it has everything there, but the problem is that you are saying that it's all there, but like basically other roles in the team has different perspective, and it's good to have conversation. And frankly, if it's everything there, it will be 10-second conversation. It will not kill you. You can do it in the kitchen during the coffee or during football. But like the conversation, because it's not just about like that the ticket will be tested. It's all about that you are sharing the knowledge, that you are learning how QA works, how devs works, how UI works, and like to have this oversight about more about other roles is I think super important, and that's basically the modern product development. That basically everyone participating. Everything. Of course, they are specialized in their role, but like everyone should have a little bit of knowledge about everything. And I think this and the communication is the key way how to do that.
Okay, thanks.
I guess to expand a little bit on the planning question, many clients, especially from bigger corporations, lack a lot of visibility into the project and the plan. So how do you handle that on this project in particular? Is it just a verbal report, or normally we run in sprints, and so how are you doing that?
So on Atco, it's super fancy or super easy because the client is super great. Basically, we tell them, okay, what we did last week, show it to him, and we will say, okay, this week we want to focus on those kind of things, and that's basically it. So I guess that's really ideal client. And for sure, like there are corporate clients that has some bureaucratic requirements. What we can do about that? But on the other hand, I feel that if we don't like we are saying that we don't want to be just body shop, but we want to provide solution. It also means that we will provide a way how good products are done. And part of it is that basically you cannot spend time on bureaucratic, but you need to spend time or discussing important things about the product to make it successful. So I don't have some magical solution how to persuade next time first time to not use the they use, but you know, we need to try. Thank you.